At the dawn of early football fields were just merely one-dimensional. They were just a flat field, and fans may watch on the sidelines. Soon bleachers and other seating came up, but there was a real big break in the early 20th century, and that's when a stadium was built that would set the standards for modern stadiums. Timothy P. Brown joins us to talk about the building of Harvard Stadium. He's up in just a moment to tell us all about it.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history. And it is Tuesday, and as we have traditionally done over the last couple of years, we have visited with Timothy P. Brown of FootballArchaeology.com, talking about another aspect of great football history that maybe isn't mainstream and we don't know much about, but Tim has done some digging and studying on it, and he's got a great one for us tonight. Tim, welcome back to the Pig Pen.
Thanks, Darren. Yeah, looking forward to talking about cementing our relationship, if I can really pull in a really bad bet.
Yeah, I think that might earn some cement shoes there on that one. That's
yeah, sorry.
Of course,
I don't prepare these. He's just they just come. It's like
they
magic.
Come right out.
It's off, and sometimes it doesn't come off right.
Tim is segueing into a tidbit that he wrote about a year ago, a little over a year ago, or maybe it was this year, just June 26th, building and opening Harvard Stadium, which is a great iconic stadium of college football that, a cathedral, I guess, of football. So maybe Tim, we'd love to hear about the history of what you have on this one.
Yeah. So Harvard Stadium, I'm happy to report that I did see one game there. I went and saw Harvard Yale there 20 years ago or so. And I've only had obstructed viewing seats on 2 or 3 occasions, and that was one of them. There's atop the stadium, there's these big cement pillars, and my seat was directly behind one of those. So I paid the full ticket price, but anyways,
it gives me visions of the old Cleveland Municipal Stadium where the Browns used to play, the old Browns, and the same way you get up on those upper levels, you have these giant pillars in the way. You miss half the field.
Well, yeah, I've done the I-beam thing at the Old County Stadium and Tiger Stadium, but this was much bigger than an I-beam. So anyways, but that Harvard Stadium was built in 1903. Prior to that, they played basically right next door to where they built Harvard Stadium. It was an open area across the Charles River from the rest of campus. It's over near where the Harvard Business School is. But the money, they had all this money to build this new stadium, and they decided to build it out of reinforced concrete, which at the time was just this, exciting new way to build, major structures. But this was the first, sizable structure in the world to be built of reinforced concrete. So the Romans had figured out how to do concrete, and then we'd forgotten the magic of that for almost 1900 years. But they kind of got that going again, and so they had the money, and they basically said, okay, we're going to start building this thing after the baseball season is over, because they were building it atop the old baseball field. So they couldn't start building until it was like the midway through June or something like that. And then it was just like Katie bar the door. They literally had 800 workmen there every day trying to build this thing, and they didn't have to dig it out or anything. They didn't, it was basically just they poured these big concrete slabs, just it's kind of like an assembly line production, built one slab after another. And it was all with, it was all built with like sackcrete. So, they figured they had like 90,000 bags of cement that
Wow.
these people poured. And so, but the stadiums then didn't have all the amenities that they have now. So there were no bathrooms, um, concessions, that there were no lights. you know there's no maybe they had telephones in there, but I mean literally, I mean it was about as spare as you could have, by today's standards. At the time it's just this incredible structure. So I mean they ended up, it literally was the progress of building the stadium was reported around the world, among construction aficionados, right? But so they, as we talked last week, Yale would play almost all their games at home. Harvard was in the same situation. Everybody would come to Harvard because, even before they built Harvard Stadium, they had a fairly sizable stadium. They could make more money by playing there than playing at home. So, so they played eight home games in the old stadium. And in the tidbit itself, I've got a cool image from the newspaper showing them playing a game. I think it's a game that they played against Carlisle. And then in the background, you can see, the stadium is rising, in the background. One other just quick little side note is that, and this is in the tidbit too, there was in it, when I found this article, or one of the articles, adjoining that article was a newspaper article about this guy in Britain named C.S. Rolls. And he had set a new world record by driving 84 miles an hour over the course of a kilometer. So 84 miles an hour was basically the fastest anybody had ever driven a car. So I just thought it was interesting that was next door or next to this article. And then this guy named Rolls joined up with a guy named Royce the next year. They started a car company that most of us are familiar with and fits well with the Harvard theme, right? So anyways, they're building this thing, but they just couldn't get it completed by time for the last two games of the season. And they wanted it to be ready for the Yale game, which is being played at Harvard that year. So they stopped construction and then focused for about a week or two just on like cleaning the place up. They built temporary stands. They built like areas to block off the things that were still under construction.
Yeah, they had like 90,000 concrete paper bags laying around. They had to
Yeah,
clean up.
well, created a hell of a bonfire.
That's right.
And so they did all that stuff. They get it all set up. So then they play. I think they wanted to give it a test run playing Dartmouth before Yale the following week. So Dartmouth comes into play, and typically Harvard beat them every year. But that year, Dartmouth had a pretty good team, and they end up winning 15-0. So, the Harvard people are kind of PO'd. But thankfully, Yale had lost the same week. And so both teams were coming into the game, with their most recent game being a loss. But everybody's excited. This is going to be the largest crowd to ever see a game at an on-campus stadium. I mean, there were bigger games played at the Polo Ground, or bigger crowds at the Polo Grounds, and a couple of places here and there. But on campus, this is like they were going to have like 23 or 25,000 because the stadium wasn't complete. But sure enough, Yale comes in and beats Harvard 16-0. So, so they didn't score in their first two games in Harvard Stadium. They didn't even score, and they had to wait till the start of the 1904 season before they would win a game in their brand new, massive, reinforced concrete stadium. So, anyways, that's kind of just the story, but it's still kind of a cute deal, and it's just, you just realize the things that we just take for granted in terms of the quality of stadiums and the size of stadium, 33,000 was what they designed this thing for. And, at that time it was a U-shaped stadium. It is now again, but, it was like, it was considered just a palace compared
Yeah.
to most places.
Right. Yeah. No, not a big fire hazard as some of the other ones were, and worrying about collapsing as much
Yeah.
as some of the things that were happening at that time at many games, around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, just the irony that they have all this momentum and all this hype of this new stadium, and then going 0-2 and can't even score a point in their two
Yeah.
games against two rivals. That kind of ironic.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, there's other stuff too that I think, I mean, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe that when they built that stadium, they did not plan for, they didn't plan for like wooden benches. It was just everybody was going to sit on concrete. And then eventually they put like, concrete or wood boards on there. But I'm pretty sure the original intention was to sit on concrete, which fine in September and maybe October, but November, not so much.
Yeah,
So
I'll bet. Now, when did the Yale Bowl that came a few years after the Harvard
yeah,
Stadium?
yeah, that opened in 14.
Okay, it's
I
almost
mean,
11 years.
I
Wow.
mean, Yale had Yale Field, which preceded the Yale Bowl, was a pretty good sized stadium. I mean, I don't know exactly, but I'm guessing it was like 20,000 or something like that, and it increased in size over the years. But they build those stadiums, and like all of these, and it would go on. It went on for another 20 years. A lot of times they'd have like, if they were playing like Wesleyan or Bowdoin or something like that, they'd get 6,000 people. But so they really built the stadiums to handle the Harvard and Yale games, and to a lesser extent, Princeton.
Once every 24 months in the Harvard
Yeah,
Yale game.
yeah.
So,
Well, but everybody wanted tickets, and like when they opened it in 03, because of the reduced capacity, they couldn't handle some people got rejected, right? And so if you're a Harvard guy and you want tickets to the game and you get rejected, that's not a good thing.
yeah, probably not. You have to
In your social
you
circles.
have to get in your Rolls Royce and head back to
That's right.
Boston.
Yeah.
Tim, that is an incredible story on so many facets. I'm still trying to absorb all this. So, the whole thing with the Harvard team, the stadium, the Rolls Royce, that's just tremendous stuff. You have a lot of things going on there, and very historic. And you have a lot of different items like this that you come up in your tidbits that you're doing multiple times every week. And maybe you could share with the listeners how they too can partake in some of what your writing is.
Yeah. Excuse me. Just easiest thing is just go to footballarchaeology.com and subscribe. And you'll get an email every time that I send out a new post, which, like you said, a couple times a week. Other than that, you can follow me on the Substack app. That's probably the next best thing. But if you want to make sure you get it, subscribe, get the email, and even if you don't read it, you can just delete it. But it's up to you. Consume as you must.
Well, we always enjoy reading from the hardworking historian of the gridiron up there at footballarchaeology.com. We always enjoy that and enjoy the stories. And we love having you on here each and every Tuesday. And we would like to talk to you again next Tuesday.
Very good. Again, look forward to chatting next week.
That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.